You know, as our equipment advances and is able to give us more and more information, sometimes we can make mistakes by not understanding what it's telling us. We got a 2000 Nissan Quest with a 3.3 engine, and that's what we're testing. Now, what we're actually going to show here is the crank sensor. Very commonly, oftentimes, we'll try and get our information first. So let's look at our scan tool. Now we can choose scanner, component test, or scope, but oftentimes we'll go to component test to get some information. We're looking at the crank sensor, component information. As we read right here, it says that it's a magnetic pickup mounted to the bell housing. It reads the cogs on the ring gear, and it generates an AC voltage signal, which is sent to the PCM. PCM uses it for engine speed and determining misfire. Now, key things here. It generates an AC voltage, the keyword voltage. The sensor generates a voltage. AC means it's going to be a sine wave. That's what I would be expecting to see. So if I go back out of here and I want to go over, but it gives me a frequency test. So if I choose frequency, it just says they backprobe the signal wire, and at 800 RPM, which should be idle, the frequency should be 1.5. Notice this is frequency, not voltage.
Voltage is an actual reading of voltage during the sine wave. Frequency is the time for one complete voltage cycle to the next cycle.
So when I turn on my meter, and it displays we're tapped into the signal, we should be reading about 1.5 kilohertz. So since this is reading frequency, on the left here we're reading frequency, not voltage, as you would normally be looking for. And it's reading a frequency of about 1.5, goes across, we've got a 5-second interval. Now if you're looking at that, you might be thinking, well, that looks like dropouts. We're at idle. Let me bring it above idle a little bit. When we drop back down to idle, you might look at this and be saying, well, it's dropping out. We got dropouts at idle. If you go back up here to the top, it's saying it should be 1.5 at 800. No dropouts or spikes should be present. That actually looks like dropouts, but they're really not. So let me explain. We're going to go out of here. I have to stop this one, and I'm going to go into the lab scope. I've already got this lab scope set up. We're going to turn it on, and it is displaying like this. I'm still setting at 5 seconds, just like the other one, but now we're reading voltage over here. We're not reading frequency. And if you look at the voltage, if you look close, 0 volts is right in the middle, and it's going up over 2 volts, and it's going down below negative 2 volts. So this is the sine wave that it was talking about. To see that better, I'm going to change the sweep. We'll go from 5 seconds, which is what we're at. Let's go down from 5 seconds to 5 milliseconds. Now you can see the sine wave a little bit better. It's changed the vision of it. You can see we're going up a little over 2 and down below 2. But this is the sine wave. Now, since we're reading voltage over here in the same 5-second interval, or 5 milliseconds now, when I accelerate, now you can see the voltage is going up. But frequency is not up and down. Frequency is the interval in between. So when I accelerate, our voltage does go up. It does go up and down in a sine wave, but also the frequency gets shorter. So as you look at this, there are no dropouts. We're going cleanly above and below, and it is staying nice and even. And when we accelerate, there are no dropouts because it's generating a sine wave. Now, just to understand that, let's go back to our component test, and in here, it's a frequency test. When we start that meter, we're reading 1.5 the frequency, and it goes up. The frequency goes up. That's the same thing on the other one where it goes together. But here it is displaying the frequency increasing, where when you were looking at voltage, it was actually squeezing together. So these are not dropouts to zero because we're not reading 0 volts. It's the frequency going up and down. So having this equipment that can show you lots of things is valuable. But you need to understand what it's showing you and interpret it correctly. Just like gathering evidence to find a problem, we don't want to just throw a part. We want to find the evidence that actually tells us what the problem is. When you're gathering data, it's the same way. Gather the evidence in the data and be sure you understand what it's telling you. There's a big difference between hertz, frequency, voltage, sine wave, voltage drop. Be sure you understand all of that before you make your decision. So as you advance and get a high-tech piece of equipment, you need to become a high-tech technician as well and expand your knowledge so that you can understand what that tool is telling you.